Talking about rendering properties. So another property of the families and parts or a rendering property. And essentially what this allows you to do is attach a material to each part. There's two things here in the dialog. So one is the render toggle, you can see there. And so basically you can toggle that on or off. If it's off, the material won't render in the 3D model. In other words, it will just show its model symbology. But if it's toggled on and you set to, say, an illustrated view, you will actually see the render material, whether it's brick or block or whatever that might be. And those are easily changed right there in the family and part dialog. By simply selecting the material, it will open the palette and you can change the material, or you can even change the palette and the material. There is a config variable there, TF part render. By default, it's turned on, but that just gives that the ability to render by part. The other option, if you turn that off, it would then render by level and color, just as MicroStation does. And then just to mention, you can also modify the material on the part through the materials editor. So if any of you do rendering with our rendering engine that's built in to the product, you're familiar with this materials editor, and you can create your own materials and so forth. But you can, from there, if you right-click on a material, you can assign it to a part. And that will just open a dialog, which will show your families and parts in a pick list. You select the family and part, and then you can apply that material to that part. It really goes back and edits it in that family and part editor. So just interesting, you can do it either way. We'll talk a little bit more a little bit later in the presentation about some other strategies in terms of materials, but just an overview. The other thing that's a little bit hidden about the material that's assigned to the part is it can contain what's called a geometry map. Essentially, it's a pattern map. And that is what creates line patterns on your drawing. So Mark talked about the cut pattern. So that's for the cut view. But if you have a forward or reflected view, sometimes you need patterns on that as well. Obvious example is a brick pattern on a wall. But it could even be a way you want to designate, say, a slab for demolition. Maybe you want a hatch pattern on that. That could also be done using geometry maps. And that's, again, it's something that gets attached to that material. So you have to pay attention to those actual material assignments on the part. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit more later.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.